Hey guys, today I am filming the Perfect Palette 2 tag. I did film the original Perfect Palette tag several years back when it first came out. I will have my video linked up here in case you want to check that out. And I'm so happy that the lovely mother-daughter duo Melissa and Kate over at I Love Faces 1042 decided to do an updated version of this tag. I will have their video and their channel linked down below. Make sure you go check them out. They did such a fantastic job coming up with the questions for this tag. I will have the questions listed in the description box for you guys as well. I'm also going to be tagging a bunch of people in the description box, and a lot of my friends have already done this tag, so I will link their videos down below so you have even more videos to watch and hopefully some new channels to subscribe to. Question number 1, do you prefer eyeliner, brush, or nothing? So you guys know with a lot of palettes these days, they either come with just the shadows, they come with a brush, or an eyeliner. Out of those three options, I prefer to have nothing. I want just the shadows because it also cuts down on the size of the packaging. And if I had to choose between an eyeliner or a brush, I would choose an eyeliner because sometimes that's a way for me to be able to try out other liners, because I never go out and purchase pencil liners, especially high-end pencil liners, because I don't tend to use those very often. So it is cool if it's included. I will use it, but I prefer to just have nothing. I really hate when palettes come with brushes because most of the time I think they suck. All of my Urban Decay Naked palettes have a brush in them, and I really just don't like those brushes at all. Question number 2 is, what palette have you hit pan on? Now, I've only hit pan on a shadow in one palette. This is the Urban Decay Naked Original palette, and I hit pan on the shade Naked. This is a beautiful warm tone transition shade. Now, I've been using this for a long time. When I first got this palette, I was using that shadow to fill in my brows, but I used it so much this past summer and fall, and that's when I hit pan on it. It is a really fantastic formula and a great shade. Question number 3 is, what is your favorite Naked palette? So it doesn't have to be the Urban Decay Naked palettes. It can be the Too Faced Naturalized. It can be any of the drugstore versions of the Urban Decay Naked palettes that are out there. And I have a little mini rant. I am so tired of all of the drugstore brands releasing these dupes for the Naked palettes. Now, I think being able to get the same quality, the same shades of the Urban Decay Naked palettes at a very affordable price is fantastic. But a lot of these drugstore palettes have been really crappy quality, or they're just decent, not fantastic, not phenomenal. They don't compare to the quality of the Urban Decay shadows. And honestly, I'm just so annoyed with all these brands coming out with that, because in my eyes, come up with your own palette, please. I love that drugstore brands are making palettes, and I know the Maybelline palettes are absolute garbage. If they created a palette with the iStudio shadow formula instead of the Expert Wear formula, it would be so much better. But I am just wanting these drugstore brands to come up with palettes of their own unique shades, not just copying the Urban Decay Naked palettes. So needless to say, I do not have any of the drugstore Naked palettes because I don't want to waste my money on that crappy quality, and I already have all the originals. So for which Naked palette is my favorite, my answer has actually changed over the past couple weeks. So with all 3 of the Naked palettes, I do not own the Naked Smoky, but with all 3 of these, there are a couple shades that are standout must-haves to me. In the original Naked palette, my must-have standout shades would be Naked and Buck. Amazing, amazing pigmented, blendable, warm tone transition and crease shades. I think these 2 shades are such phenomenal quality and great colors that everyone should have in their collection. In the Naked 2, YDK and Tease are my favorite shades. This is my favorite cool tone neutral eye look, using YDK on the lid and Tease in the crease. But if I had to choose, I think my favorite would be the Urban Decay Naked 3 palette. I recently did a palette of the month review video and showing you multiple looks with the palette. I'll have that linked up here. And since doing that video, I really fell in love with this palette. So my favorite shades in this palette would be Strange as a brow bone highlight, Limit as a transition, Nooner as a crease shade. Then for the lid colors, I love Trick, Liar, and Mugshot. So I do have favorite must-have shadows in all 3 of those palettes, but I do think Naked 3 is my favorite, which I know this is the palette that most people don't love, but I definitely think I like this one the most because I'm able to get the most looks out of it that I really, really love. Question number 4 is, what is your favorite holiday or limited edition palette? So I actually don't own very many palettes in general. I am going to have a palette collection coming up very soon. But a lot of the palettes I own are permanent. I actually only own 3 limited edition holiday palettes, and one of them is an answer to one of the other questions. The palette I chose is a Too Faced Everything Nice palette. I believe this is from holiday 2014, and it comes with a ton of gorgeous shadows here, some matte shimmers, neutrals, brights, deep colors, and then my favorite part is that it comes with 2 blushes, a bronzer, and a highlighter. These brushes over here are pretty dinky. I wish they had something else here to replace this crap. And this palette is just okay. I don't reach for it very often. Honestly, my favorite part would be the face products included in here because I have wanted to try Pop It On Peach blush for years. So the reason that I had purchased this one is because the year before, the pink and gold chevron palette was so beautiful. I was so mad at myself for not getting it that I was like, oh my gosh, I have to get the next year's palette no matter what it looks like. I got it. I don't love it. So this is the year that I had gotten a ton of different palettes for Christmas and then realized that I don't really love palettes. So I have not purchased any more palettes in the past year. I did receive one palette as a gift that is new. It is holiday, but I haven't used it enough to really get a strong opinion on it. But honestly, I don't really have any holiday or limited edition palettes that I feel are must-haves. Question number 5 is the palette you would repurchase or what you wish you had a backup of if the palette is no longer available. And for me, I don't think I'm going to be using up a palette anytime soon, but if all my palettes were to disappear, this is the first palette I would go out and buy, and that would be the Balm Meat Matte Nude palette. You guys know I love this. This is my all-time favorite holy grail #1 pre-made palette. My favorite look is using Matte Malloy on my lid and as a brow bone highlight, Matte Sing as a transition shade, and Matte Rosen as a crease shade. I do not really use the other colors in this palette, which is a bummer. I definitely need to branch out, but I love that look so much. I would buy this entire palette just for those 3 shadows. And as I've mentioned several times on my channel, I am not a palette person. I am a single shadow person, and I would rather spend more money creating my own palettes because I will get way more use out of them because I know I love all the colors because I chose them. So really quick, I just wanted to show you guys all of the custom made palettes that I have. So this is my Anastasia quad where I picked out all the shadows. I've got 2 mattes, 2 shimmery shades, 2 cool tones, 2 warm tones, so I can have a nice variety. Then I have my MAC palette, which I'm seriously obsessed with. I'm so in love with this palette. I love the way that I have all the shades laid out. These are shimmers, these are mattes, this is also a matte. I have a warm tone row, cool tone row, and colorful row. And then my last pre-made palette would be my Makeup Geek shadows. I have my neutrals, my brights, and then my special effects foiled and duochrome shades. So honestly, if I could have these 3 custom made palettes and this 1 pre-made palette, I'd be totally happy. Question number 6 is a shade that you wish was sold individually. I have a couple answers for this question. You guys know I always cheat on tags. So my first #1 pick for this would be the Balm Matte Sing. This is the best peachy tan transition color for my very fair skin. I love this color so much. I know it's just a transition that should be a really boring shade, but it is so perfect for my skin. I love the formula as well. So this would be the #1 shade I would love to have in a single. And I would also have to say Limit and Nooner from the Urban Decay Naked 3 palette. They are some of the best rosy tone, transition, and crease colors. My favorite shades from Urban Decay Naked 1 and Naked 2 are sold individually. Thankfully, I actually own YDK and T's in single form, and Naked and Buck are sold individually. But unfortunately, none of these shades in the Naked 3 palette are sold individually. So those 2 I would really love to have in single form. Question number 7 is a wild card where you choose 1 question from the original Perfect Palette tag and answer it. So I'm actually choosing choosing a different palette for this answer than I did in the original video, and the question I'm going with is most versatile. And my answer for this question would be the Anastasia Tamana palette. This was a limited edition palette. I do really love this palette. I guess this one would be my favorite limited edition palette, but I didn't want to mention this for 2 questions. The reason I'm choosing this palette for the most versatile is you have a matte brow bone highlight, a matte chocolate brown, a matte black. You have a cool tone taupe, a warm tone bronze. You have a really nice light champagne everyday shade. You have a matte transition-y crease color. Then you have some pops of color. You have a cranberry and aqua and this gorgeous China Rose shade, which is super similar to MAC Expensive Pink. I just think you have such a phenomenal variety in this palette, and you can create several looks using it. I think that this is a super well-rounded, versatile palette. And unfortunately, like I said, this is a limited edition palette, but you can buy all of these shades individually on the Anastasia website, which is so phenomenal that you have the option of buying them. If you see Anastasia palettes, I highly recommend you pick them up. They are some of the most inexpensive palettes from a high-end brand, and they come with a really nice amount of shadows in them with really, really great packaging. Question number 8 is the palette you would recommend to a friend. So like I said, the Balm Meat Matte Nude palette is my #1 all-time favorite, but honestly, I don't know if a lot of people would love it as much as I do because it's kind of blah. It's a lot of all matte crease colors basically, so I think it's really handy. It's a great companion palette, but standing on its own, I love it, but I don't think a lot of other people would. So my recommendation is going to be choosing one of the Urban Decay Naked palettes that you find most flattering for you, whether you like warm tones, cool tones, rosy tones. I would just recommend that my friend go into Sephora and Ulta and swatch the different shades, figure out which of these 3 palettes they like the most, because you can get so many looks out of this palette. You can get everyday looks, more dramatic looks, and I definitely think most people tend to reach for neutral shadows than they do colorful shadows, so I think that this would be a better use of money instead of a high-end Urban Decay Electric palette with a bunch of crazy neons that they're probably not going to wear as often. So I would recommend one of the Naked palettes to a friend. So guys, those are my questions to the Perfect Palette 2 tag. I really, really loved the questions. I was so excited to do this. If you've done this tag on your channel, please let me know. And if you don't make videos, I would love for you to answer the questions in a comment down below so we can just chat about our favorite palettes. And please let me know if there are any other tags going around that you would like me to do. I'm definitely going to be doing the Project Pan Pro tag. Very, very excited about that. That's probably going to be the next tag video that I do. I also want to do an updated version of the I Heart Drugstore makeup tag. So let me know your thoughts on those, and let me know if there are any other tags going around that you would like me to do. Thank you all so much for watching. Please rate, comment, and subscribe, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye, guys.